G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, we're back. Few days off over Christmas just to chill, do a few other things, and we're back. We actually hit 6k subs there just before Christmas, just I think on Christmas Eve, which was really nice. And even when I don't upload a video, I still gain subs, no problem. So it's nice to know. But look, we're back. I got a few topics planned for videos over the next few days. There's not really much going on. See, this time of year is always quiet. That's why I didn't do review of the week. I was planning on doing review of the year, but I kind of already touched on all that with the video I did with Chris Andre last week. So I kind of felt like I'd only be repeating myself if I did a review of the year. And there wasn't enough happening. Obviously, it was Christmas week. There wasn't that going to be much happening. But now I've got a little bit together. We're going to lap it all into one and have a little chat about it. I'm going to start with the Luis Ortiz Charles Martin card this weekend. Interestingly enough, right, it's off box rec here. I'm just going to talk about the card in the whole. It's off box rec here. But Frank Sanchez, as we all know, was meant to face Carlos Negron. Now, that fight was kind of a stay busy fight for Frank Sanchez. It was coming off the win over F.A. Ajagba back in October on the Fury Wilder undercard. He was just having a run out against Carlos Negron. Negron can bang a bit, but he's not the most durable. It was kind of a gimme fight for Frank Sanchez. More a fight for him to come through and look good. Now, he's off this card on BoxRec because Negron pinged affirmatively. The difference is, I think it was Mike Coppinger tweet that apparently Frank Sanchez will still be on the card. This is according, I'm pretty sure it was Mike Coppinger. It was an American source I seen it from, where it said that Christian Hammer has been brought in as a replacement. Now, whether that's been pushed back because maybe Hammer wasn't in America, I don't know. But that's what I heard. So watch the space with Frank Sanchez. In terms of him against Hammer, if that happens, that could be an ugly fight. Hammer is not. Although Hammer was. I thought him against Fury would be ugly, and it was actually a bit better than I thought it would have been. But that has the potential to be a really, really bad fight. Just from a viewing perspective. Sanchez is a very good boxer, very good mover. Very quick on his feet. Really does a lot of things very well. I don't think he lacks punching power necessarily, but he doesn't really tend to go for the finish more. So he tends to kind of just let his boxing do the talking. Against Negron would have been nice to see if he could stamp his authority. Against Hammer, although he's been looking a bit more vulnerable as of late, he still has the survival. And to be fair, he probably would get it because if you're talking about Hammer on short notice, he normally comes in quite bad shape, very bad shape on short notice. So you never know about that. But watch the space with that fight. I don't know what's happening there. Vic Curse versus Igo Kaladzes. I think that's the guy who dropped F.A. Ajagba a couple of years back when he was on the back foot. So Vic Curse is a Ukrainian heavyweight. He's a little prospect. He's 8-0 now at the minute. He also fought on the Fury Wilder undercard. So we'll see how he looks. Kaladzes is kind of like just one of them journeymen that most of these prospects get through. He's alright. He's not amazing, but he's in for a journeyman guy. Although he doesn't look, he's not got a journeyman record. Most of these guys should be getting rid of him. Jonathan Rice versus Michael Coffey. I'm a bit surprised that fight's on this card. Jonathan Rice versus Michael Coffey happened back in August. Jonathan Rice, I think it was 5 or 6 rounds he stopped Michael Coffey in. It wasn't a competitive fight. So why this rematch is happening is a little bit of a head scratcher for me. I'm going to be honest. I don't normally when you do rematches, especially with kind of prospects like Michael Coffey, although he is kind of a little bit up there in age, you'd normally only do a rematch if it's maybe very controversial or something like that. He was fairly dominated by Jonathan Rice, so I don't really understand the matchmaking there, to be honest with you. But look, we'll see. Maybe they're hopeful that maybe there was something wrong with Jonathan or Michael Coffey. Maybe he didn't have a good camp. I don't know. Maybe they're thinking him firing on all cylinders could beat Jonathan Rice. We'll have to wait and see there. But Jonathan Rice isn't a bad fighter. He's actually a lot better than that record 14-6 suggests. And given the fact that the first fight was so much in Rice's favour, I would imagine that he would have to beat Michael Coffey again. Gerald Washington versus Ali Aaron Darimzin. I'm probably butchering that last name. that could go one of two ways. That could be a Washington win on points, or that could be a Derimson stoppage. Depends how much Washington has left in the tank. I mean, in his last 6 fights, he's gone 2-4. It's not ideal. If you're Jero, it's not ideal at all. Obviously, that leads into the main event, which is Charles Martin versus Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz is listed as 42 years old. Apparently, he'll be 43 in March. Right. Is he now? Well, look, officially that's what it says, but I think we all know it's probably God knows how, because people were saying he was close to 50 against Wilder in the first fight, so God knows how old he actually is. But even if he is legit 42, you got to imagine there's got to be precious little left in the tank for Luis Ortiz. And people look at the second Wilder fight and say, oh, he was winning that fight, you know, and he was outboxing Wilder for parts, but he still looked as slow as molasses in there. That was 2 years ago. His speed's not going to have improved since then. If anything, it's going to have regressed. And to be honest, he only had that round and a bit, or half a round actually, against Flores last year. So really inactive over the last 2 years is Luis Ortiz. Charles Martin fought on the Fury Wilder 2 card, hasn't fought since, so he's been inactive too. This really is a loser leaves town. And to be honest with you, you could say loser leaves town. Even if Ortiz wins, someone's got to turn him over sooner or later, because he's pushing. Even if he is legit 42, going on 43, what more can he do? Like, I mean, like, I don't think he's legit. I think he's older than that. But even if he was legit, like, I mean, that's still old in any aspect. I know he's not got many massive miles on the clock, but still. So I would imagine. Look, I'll probably favour. See, it's a tricky one. Like, based on ability, it's a no contest. It's Luis Ortiz all the way. But that's assuming we still have a semblance of the Ortiz who fought in the first Wilder fight, which I don't think we do anymore. I will. Who would I pick in that fight? Because I always like to give a pick. I will probably go. I'm going to do it. I'm going to stick my neck out in the line and say Charles Martin's going to win that fight. I just think Luis Ortiz is. The inactivity, the age, I think that's all going to catch. I think that's all going to show in this fight. I really, really do. I really do. And I think the inactivity, he's had what? That was 90 seconds, that Flores fight last year. He's had basically 90 seconds in 2 years. I know Charles Martin's not been active himself, but he's had a bit more. At least he's had a few more rounds in the immediate time. I think that Washington fight went 8 or 9 rounds, if memory serves me correctly. Anyway. Let's look at other things. Not Frank Warren. I'll talk about him now in a sec. But Bob Arum has declared, okay, so basically, right, this whole Fury Whyte thing, it's still a bit up in the air. I'm going to quote, actually, from what Frank Warren, I keep saying Frank Warren, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was watching the interview with him on IFL before doing this. But Bob Arum has said that there's negotiations going for Fury and Whyte. They've offered him a deal, 25% with a guarantee. But he wants over 10 million. Wow. We want the guarantee of 5.5 million against a percentage, and they said you got to start with 10 million. So if Bob Arum, if what he's saying is true, could Dylan Whyte potentially be pricing himself out? I was watching one of Hatman's videos about a week or so ago where he was saying that apparently Dylan Whyte, was it that he declared his purse for the Povetkin rematch is 300 grand, which I was quite surprised at. So I wonder what's going on there. But that's what Bob Arum is saying there. From what I'm hearing as well, there's a few kind of other things, especially with the arbitration thing with the BBC, that still hasn't been ironed out. So potentially, it's been said here, right, potentially that we could be seeing Fury in a fight against 2 possible opponents next year at some stage. And he said that could be Andy Ruiz in Vegas, all right, or Robert Helenius in Manchester. So Andy Ruiz in Vegas for Fury potentially next year, but these are all potentially, or potentially Helenius in Manchester as a homecoming for Fury. Would Helenius, now people were saying that if he has the Dylan Whyte fight and he does it in Manchester, could do Old Trafford. I reckon it could. Helenius, they'd probably do that in the Manchester arena. Either of them fights, like, I would pick Fury over both them guys, especially Hellenius. I know Hellenius has had a bit of an Indian summer in his career with the Kalnaki wins, and he looked very good in the last fight against Kalnaki. But saying that, Kalnaki looked really poor, like really, really poor in that rematch with Hellenius. Saying that, I think stylistically, just Hellenius has Kalnaki's number. I just think Kalnaki's too easy to hit, so Hellenius was always gonna give him fits in that fight. Let's have a look-see at some other things as well. Usyk and Anthony Joshua. Okay, now there's been a few things. Some people have been talking about an image, and actually had someone send me a picture of it on Twitter, of Anthony Joshua. It was an Instagram post. He was kind of standing kind of sideways, and people were saying to me, like, is he packing on muscle, and is that a good thing? It's really hard to tell from that picture because he was standing side on if he's packed anything on or not. His biceps did look a little bit bigger, but that might not mean anything, to be honest with you. In terms of AJ packing muscle on for the Usyk rematch, personally, I don't think it's a good idea. It kind of baffled me that there was a lot of people who I'd seen who, said in the past that, AJ, when he was weighing in the 250s, like against Takam, it's way too heavy for AJ. So that when he came down in weight, it was seen as, a good thing. Like, 240 is ideal. And now people are saying that he needs to go back up in weight, when I think that his weight now, his ideal weight now is perfect. I think that against Usyk, he was just outboxed. I don't think that him weighing more, like, if anything, I think if AJ packs on weight, it's actually going to play into Usyk's strengths, to be honest with you, because AJ's talking about kind of going at Usyk, going for war, trying to put it on Usyk. And I was talking with Chris Andre and Jamie from Punch Perfect Boxing, shout out to them guys, who, Chris specifically was saying that, like, AJ's been trying, kind of grappling, kind of wrestling, in the hopes of doing that, maybe potentially in the Usyk rematch. And, my first thought when I hear that is like, that isn't just the case of tiring your opponent out. Like, you need to be able to do that. That's not, people think, like, grappling, oh, you're not exerting energy. You're exerting energy doing that as well. I remember Kovalev, I think in the Ward rematch, I remember was talking about doing more grappling, learning more grappling. And look at Kovalev in that Ward rematch. He was absolutely gassed by the time of the stoppage. I know that a lot of the shots were low, but nevertheless, he was still gassing quite bad nevertheless. So I think if AJ is really serious about putting on more weight, about trying to be more aggressive and trying to, really grapple with Usyk, I think that's really not a good idea. I know we need to try something different. I get that, but I really do see that coming back and biting AJ in the what if he does that. Specifically if he gains the weight. I mean, all I can see is AJ being a little bit slower, a little bit more stationary, and even against Pulev, right? Against Pulev, he was around about the weight he is for the Usyk first fight, in around about the 240s, low 240s. When AJ had that success against Usyk in the third round, and I think they dropped him once or twice. Yeah. Well, he dropped, was it once or twice? Look, nevertheless, he dropped him anyway in that round. And you could see AJ, the same pattern happened where he had to kind of just take a couple of rounds off, before, regroup and then go on the attack again. He was still doing that at 240. Now let's imagine he comes into the Usyk rematch, we'll say a number 252. That's not going to change. If anything, it's going to get worse. If he manages to maybe buzz Usyk and can't get rid of him, how many rounds off is he going to need? So I really don't, I just don't see. I know he needs to change something up, I get that, but surely there's other ways rather than, this is what AJ may be saying, that's putting the weight on, I don't know, but they're going ultra aggressive, and Usyk has seen all that before. Like, this is what I think I said on again with Chris, is that we don't know what gear Usyk was in that AJ fight. Could there be more gears to Usyk? Could he have maybe not hit top gear in the AJ first fight that he could hit in the rematch? And as we know, Usyk has had however many amateur fights. He's been in there with multiple big guys, been around the gyms, been sparring, he's been at this for God knows how long. He's always composed. He doesn't seem to be phased, doesn't seem to be rattled, just stoic. I'm sure if AJ did put it on Usyk early, there wouldn't be a crisis for Alexander Usyk where it's like, oh my God, he's putting on me, what do I do? I don't see that happen. I see Usyk being able to adjust, being able to say, okay, this is what he's doing now, right, this is what I need to do, like, instantly. And Usyk even says himself here, when he was asked by Forbes if he's concerned about AJ being more aggressive, and he says, I'm not worried. If Joshua's ready to fight, Alexander is ready for any kind of fight. And I suspect he probably is, to be honest with you. Usyk is fun to watch. He really is, because he just seems so in the zone almost at all times, if you know what I mean. Like, he just has that playful kind of character. His facial expression never changes. Doesn't seem to get roiled. I mean, if you look at, as I said, Chris Andre done a very good example where he talked about Usyk's mental strength in an excellent video a couple of months back. But even if you look back to some of the fights he's been in, like against, Marco Huck specifically tried to roil Usyk up, and Usyk never really reacted, never did anything until fight night, and he put a horrific beating on Marco Huck for that. I mean, that was a horrible fight to watch if you were a Marco Huck fan. And as for the rematch, Eddie Hearn has slated a realistic date of April, stated that despite international offers, the fight will likely take place in the UK. Okay, so we're looking at April for Usyk AJ. I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I might do some more videos where I talk a bit more in depth about it. I can't see AJ winning that rematch. I really can't. The Ruiz fight was different, I could see how he could beat Andy Ruiz. That's why I picked him to win the rematch against Ruiz, because I could see, and AJ made some mistakes you can iron out. We know how to beat Ruiz. Look at what Parker did. You're bigger than Parker and longer, so you can do that too, to greater effect, which he did. But with Usyk, it's like, it's just such a different kind of puzzle to solve. I just don't see it. No, I really don't. I just don't see it. Triple G versus Riyad Morata looks set to be scheduled for March or April, according to Eddie Hearn. I was looking forward to seeing that. It was meant to be happening now. Was it tomorrow or the next day? It was one of the two. I was looking forward to that fight. We will get it. The longer they're leaving this fight go, the more it's favouring Morata, in my opinion. Triple G will be pushing. No, he will be 40 next year. Yes, he will. He's 39, so he will be 40 next year. So the longer that fight gets pushed back, the more it favours Morata, definitely. Derek Chisora, who's talking about coming back in summer of next year, right? Well, if he's talking about having maybe one more fight, going out with a win and retirement, fine. But if he's talking about having another run, and looking for a big fight, I hope not. Naming Chris Arreola as potential opponent for next year, we shall see. Arreola was very game for the Ruiz fight, very game for that fight. So I wonder, will he have the same fire if he goes in there and potentially fights Derek Chisora? That was it was really weird to me. All right, that Arreola throughout his whole career had always just seemed to, and he wasn't body beautiful in the Ruiz fight, but he was in much better shape than I've ever seen him. And this is at the very, 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 very end of his career, is when he's in the best shape of his career, which is crazy. That world title shots, he still came in quite, poor shape, but yet an all Mexican clash, nope, now I'm going to train. I did find that just bizarre. Eddie Hearn on Canelo Alvarez in 2022. I think he should fight Dimitri Bivol, then basically the champions at 175. So he's talking about Bivol first, then Smith, then Beterbiev. It is going to be interesting to see what Canelo Alvarez does next. Bivol will cause Alvarez issues, that of which I have no doubt, but I can see Canelo getting through that fight in the Justin and coming out on top personally. I can see him doing that, to be honest with you. In terms of Joe Smith, big strong guy, was going to come at Canelo. Canelo probably light him up like a Christmas tree. Beterbiev is the one I look at and I just think, now that could be interesting. That's a fight where I don't know who I'd pick. I really don't, because Beterbiev, it's not just the power punching of Beterbiev. He breaks guys down mentally. He does, between the punching power, the relentless pressure, the way he cuts the ring off without exerting energy himself, the way he's making these fighters constantly think, having to reset and just think, am I here? Look at with Marcus Brown in that fight. When I watched it, I felt like he was breaking Marcus Brown down mentally before breaking him down physically, because Marcus Brown could have got up from that knockdown in the 9th round, and he was just like, this guy's already done me. So Beterbiev is a real interesting fight. It's a real interesting fight. is there much else really to discuss? I really want to talk about AJ in more depth, so I'm probably going to do a separate video on him, probably get a thumbnail made and talk about that at some stage tomorrow. I see Tony Yoka's fight with Martin Bacoli is now off because France, with the you-know-what. France have one of the strictest, most draconian measures in Europe, and it's proving, and those measures are completely unscientific, by the way, and they're doing nothing. It's completely making no difference. Shock. Amazing. Who would have thought? But yeah, the fight against Yoka and Bacoli, I was looking forward to that. I know the original opponent was Takam, and I think it was pulled out with an injury. And some people were suggesting that maybe that Takam fight was never meant to go ahead at all. It was just to see if they could get Bacoli back in. So I wonder what they'll do. Will they reschedule that? Will they try and make the Takam fight, which I don't know. Will they do that? I'm pretty sure him and Takam are good buddies. I think I've seen them in pictures together. So we shall wait and see on that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The Frank Warren interview I'd seen, Frank Warren is like Ebenezer Scrooge from the Charles Darwin novel on steroids. He's been talking about, boxing in January not happening. Certainly in the UK. Because the British Boxing Board don't want the shows to go ahead, he says. Now, I've been on their website, seen nothing to suggest it. January is always a quiet month in boxing anyway. Like, if you go back and look through the years in boxing, very seldom you'll see shows on in January. Very seldom. In terms of major shows, certainly in the UK, I think that 2019, Hearn didn't put any shows on, nor did Warren until February. That's 2019 now. Because January, I think, as a month in a whole, you very seldom see big major shows on, because I think most fighters want to get through Christmas. They want to have a bit of a fun at Christmas. They don't want to be doing, making weight and stuff like that over the Christmas period. Most people will have spent a lot of money over Christmas, so financially maybe it's not an option for them to be going to shows. So, as I said, very seldom you see a lot of shows on, even at the best times, in the month of January. Now, Frank Warren is saying he's not putting the show on until March. I don't think he can afford to put a show on until March, because I really don't think he's adept to be able to put any big shows on until that time. So, there's that. Hearn's been talking about putting shows on in the month of February, one by one. So, that's nothing new, that January is going to be a quiet one. But I've seen the board not say anything about it. They've certainly not hinted at it. I do expect Eubank and Williams to get moved, probably to London, because Wales have gone, cuckoo. But Ireland went that way a long time before, so welcome to the club. But anyway, I expect that fight to get moved to London, because I don't think they can get any attendance in Wales at that fight anyway. So yeah, that's that. It is what it is. But look, I hope that fight doesn't get binned, or at least moved, because that is a good fight. That is, make no mistake, it's a very good fight. So hopefully that gets moved, probably to London. We'll wait and see. That's the one I'm really looking at, and I'm watching closely to see what's going to happen there. Hearn, as I said, was talking in interviews about doing, I think it was starting on, the 4th of February or something like that, 4 shows kind of back to back to back. I think a collie, his name was mentioned, but Watsy as well, his name was mentioned. Some people actually said a collie in a unification. I would imagine it's against not Briadis, the other guy. But and obviously not Makabu, the other champion, the WBA. I think he's French. I can't remember his name. His name escapes me. I'd imagine it's probably against him. And Bawatsi, obviously. Would we get Conor Benn out that early? Be hitting the miss, but it's an interesting one. Going into 2022, I'll tell you one thing that surprised me about Hearn, and it's something that I have to say is going to be a big thing moving forward with Probellum. The Probellum are, I think Richard Schaefer is a part of Probellum, or maybe he's the head promoter. He's something to do with them anyway. But they've been doing something that Eddie Hearn used to do, which was get a lot of the GB amateurs turning pro. Do you remember when Eddie Hearn was doing the Sky Days? It seemed like every GB amateur, or anyone who was associated kind of high level with GB, would sign with Matchroom and turn pro with Matchroom. It's not the case now. A lot of them are signing with Probellum. Probellum, as far as I'm aware, they don't actually have a network. If someone wants to correct me about that, feel free to. But they've been on Box Nation, but they're not going to run their shows on Box Nation long term. I would imagine anyway. You know, strange things have happened, but I would imagine, like Box Nation, I mean, the fact that people still pay 12 quid for that a month is a head scratcher. I gave up just paying that however many years ago because they don't put on any shows anymore, Box. They're very few anyway. It's just mainly reruns of old cards, which is bizarre that they still charge subscription. Okay, maybe they bring it down. They should, if they want to keep it a subscription, maybe bring it down, give people value for money, but 4 quid or something like that a month, because you're not getting really anything. You're getting maybe one show every 3 months, which is not really value for money. At least back in the days before, even when Warren was on BT Sport, you had a choice. You could still watch it on either or. Whereas now it's like, Jesus. I mean, they're showing shows from like 2014, 2015 on Box Nation. You can go on YouTube and watch a lot of them fights for free, which is crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What time are we at? I think I've been going for about 15, 20 minutes. So I'll talk more in depth about Anthony Joshua and the situation with Usyk going into the rematch. I think we're getting that fight next regardless, to be honest with you. I don't see any Fury, him undisputed. I think we're getting Fury against whoever next, and then Usyk versus Joshua as well. For now, lads and lasses, I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, please help your boy out. Smash the like button, subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. Helps grow the channel. And hopefully we can get to 7k as quick as we got to 6. For now, lads and lasses, I'll leave you. I hope you have a great day. Peace.